Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here on Swish City, where we're going to be breaking down a specific team and looking at how they dismantled and handled one of the NBA's best in the Boston Celtics last night in their first NBA Cup game without their star player in Trae Young. If you guys can tell from the title, if you guys can tell from the thumbnail, you already know who we're discussing and breaking down today, but we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Hawks and how they got a shocking win versus the Boston Celtics last night in the inaugural games for the NBA Cup to give them a bit of a lead. But not only did they have a phenomenal performance without star player in Trae Young out, but they've had specific players step up in that game and really deliver and kind of put a little bit of limelight on this Hawks team, and a discussion that I think can now be opened if we see this Hawks team play well without Trae Young. So let's dive in and let's get into all of this. First, like I said, we want to look at the Hawks so far in the NBA. They did get the win versus Celtics last night, but they are 5-7. They are in the middle of the pack of the Eastern Conference, but as we can tell from the Eastern Conference, it has been battered with injuries, and only 5 teams are 500 or at least tied for 500 in the Eastern Conference. So being below 500 might not be the worst for a Hawks team, specifically dealing with some injuries as well to their star player. But one thing I want to talk about in concern is with Trae Young being out, this is the exploration for the Hawks to get some players to really step up and really showcase their skills. Obviously, Trae being their number one guy for the past couple of years, playing with DeJounte Murray, they moved off of him last season, really cementing that they believed in Trae Young. The Hawks had the number one overall pick. They did not trade away Trae Young, so they want to believe in this star. They want to put players around him that can work, and that's why they went out and drafted Zachary Rizashar, a player who many felt was maybe not necessarily the number one overall pick from the stats, but was the best player fit for the Hawks. A player who could come in, insert himself as a wing, as a defensive piece that the Hawks desperately needed, similar to what Keegan Murray kind of did for the Kings a couple seasons ago. And he could kind of take that leap and finding himself with the Hawks. And for Trae Young versus the first time he played against Boston, he didn't have the greatest performance, being locked up from Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White. But in last night's contest, he was not available. So Celtics fans, including myself, thought this was going to be a blowout win. Thought the Celtics were going to be able to handle this Hawks team, and the Hawks said no. They came out and they surprised everybody with fantastic performances, not only from Dyson Daniels, but also Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, and multiple others. And this Hawks team is really showcasing that they have some youth players and some players that really can develop and turn out to be stars or even potential great players alongside their team to really either revitalize this rebuild into a quick jump start, or B, even make the Hawks realize that Trae Young could be the odd man out, and getting some more youth to help out this team could be the direction it goes in. So we're going to kind of look at both of those instances and kind of figure out what is the best direction for the Hawks while exploring how well these players have really stood out and played. And first player we're going to be diving in and looking at, like I mentioned, is Dyson Daniels, who has been incredible. And I want to state this now that I'm on the Dyson Daniels hype train ever since he got drafted. Once he was selected to the New Orleans Pelicans, I felt that this type of point guard could work seemingly alongside CJ McCollum and be that facilitator, that guy that could work alongside Zion Williamson and play and be that defensive guard that the Pelicans needed. And unfortunately for him, he never got that opportunity, regardless of the fact that he was shafted in New Orleans with a bunch of guards behind Jose Alvarado, behind CJ McCollum, who they were playing more at the one guard because they had so many wings. They had to play Brandon Ingram and Trey Murphy and Herbert Jones at the 2 and the 3, that Dyson Daniels basically just didn't have a role in New Orleans. It was a young enough player that had some enticing pieces, had some enticing skill set on the defensive and playmaking side that some teams would want to buy in on him. So when DeJounte Murray was available for trade from the Hawks and they decided to move him to New Orleans, I knew that that was a perfect move for the Hawks, bringing in DeJounte, a player who's already kind of that point guard that needed to be that playmaker, that lob threat alongside Zion, but also moving off a player in Daniels who I think would be a better fit alongside Trae Young. Now, Daniels is a better POA defender and would be very, very solid alongside Trae Young. And the Hawks necessarily haven't had a type of point guard like this in a long time. A point guard that is defense first, a point guard that is going to play make and work alongside Trae Young. And I said that he could fit alongside Trae Young. Maybe the size thing wouldn't be the best fit, having Bogey be in that lineup, having Dyson be that backup point guard, may have been a little bit better. But Dyson has only not even improved the fact that he could start alongside Trae Young, but proved that he can ball out with or without Trae Young in that lineup. Dyson Daniels has had 6 steals the last 3 or 4 games, and that is the most in NBA history. The first player to ever do that in consecutive 3 or 4 games to get Nate 6 steals, and he's on pace to break the all-time steal record in the NBA at this very moment in a single season. So Dyson Daniels is putting on a fantastic show, masterclass, performing that he can, improving that he can be that guard, that playmaker that New Orleans gave up on, and I'm so happy to see it. Not only is he playing fantastic on the defensive side, going against players like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and getting some clear cookies, getting those steals, but he's also going on the offensive side and really controlling that pace, has a very, very nice floater that he can control, and honestly, just looking sound in the system. Might not be the best scorer, might be not the best, all-out guy to go out and get 25, 30 every single night, but he's going to be a player that is going to work his ass off on both sides of the floor and give you relentless effort, and that's something that Atlanta needs in their city. So a player that is going to give it their all. And another player, speaking on that as well, that has really, really turned up, Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu. I want to mention these players together because I couldn't get a picture of Jalen Johnson by himself. But man, oh man, was Jalen Johnson on fire, and has he really transcended? Jalen Johnson, a player that not many people may have known of, and personally myself didn't really know of until last season, where he started to make some noise on this Hawks team as a 25-year-old. And was in contention for the most improved player, and many, including myself, thought him and Kobe White definitely deserved that role, but he did not win the most improved player, and it went, and he had to, continue fighting, and Jalen Johnson has proven himself to be one of those really, really solid wings in this league. He's kind of transcended over players in Atlanta that have been in that wing position. Obviously, they moved off from Sadiq Bey, but he's improved himself over DeAndre Hunter and has really taken over as that secondary scorer in this for this team. And last night versus the Celtics was that primary scorer for the Celtics and did it all while also being that scorer, helping out the team, doing it all, getting rebounds, getting assists. And that's what Jalen Johnson does. He's not just a scorer. He's not a guy who's just going to go out and get 20. He's going to fill up the stat sheet and do its best to help out the team win. And Johnson and Daniels, I think, are both compliments for players like Trae Young, who are all offensively gifted, to have those type of players that want to do it all. Same thing with Zachary Rizashar. And also Onyeka Okongwu, who really, really stood up big in these games. Him and Clint Capella were dominant versus the Celtics. The Celtics allowed 20 offensive rebounds and had 20 turnovers versus this Atlanta Hawks team, which are two main instances on why this Celtics team lost the game. Not having great playmaking, having Dyson Daniels disrupt your offense, having Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella dominating the paint, and getting 20 more shot opportunities is what's going to pull you ahead of this team. And the Hawks did just that. And honestly, it is becoming even more and more awakening that this Hawks team might not even need a player in Trae Young for the foreseeable future. If we want to discuss and talk about that as well, the Hawks are looking very, very solid with players like Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson. And last season did have, a losing record without Trae Young. But in those last 2 games of the season where they did play the Celtics without Trae Young when he was hurt, they did beat the Celtics. And we could see a Hawks team who was rumored to be wanting to maybe possibly move off a Trae Young at the deadline last season, but kind of gauging out the trade market, possibly go through it with this season. If he's dealing with some injuries for the foreseeable couple weeks, if the Hawks look solid without Trae Young, then honestly, I could see multiple teams wanting a player in Trae Young and willing to give up young draft capital and and draft picks to a Hawks team that could really use that. The Hawks do not have their first round pick this season as it is going to San Antonio, so they cannot tank. So getting some extra draft capital for a player in Trae Young could be huge to, maybe rework some things with this roster and maybe sell off some of those key players. Another player in Larry Nance, who's really stepped up big last night, who didn't get that much run in this rotation, he could get moved. Player in Clint Capella could get moved. Trae Young could get moved. And this team could really settle in a direction of believing in Jalen Johnson, playing through Dyson Daniels, and getting some other young scorers as well to kind of really fit into this team and mold. And the Hawks could kind of sit into that middle of the pack this season, but then in future seasons really embrace on being those contenders in this Southeast division with having a little bit of a younger squad, with teams like the Heat getting a little bit older, the Magic staying a little bit young, even the Wizards looking like they can bring some young, enticing pieces in. The Hawks got to stay in that youth movement, got to stay relevant with these guys, and regardless of what they decide to do, if they want to move off of Trae Young, that could be the right thing. If they want to keep Trae Young, if he comes back, he looks solid with that team as well, they can still go through with that, and I would not be upset. But the main point of talking about the Hawks team today was to talk about some of these developing, or not undeveloping, but developing players that don't get that much recognition. Players like Dyson Daniels, who has had a fantastic season defensively. Player like Onyeka Okongwu, who I've been screaming to start this Atlanta Hawks team for multiple seasons, is finally proving that he can be a true integral piece and is getting that late game action. And Jalen Johnson, man oh man, proving to be that dynamic wing and a player that is really putting on shows, filling up that stat sheet. I think there's some other players that the Hawks could utilize to trade as well, maybe Bojan Bogdanovic, maybe a DeAndre Hunter. We'll have to wait and see what this Hawks team ultimately does. Like I said, they are middle of the pack at this moment here. They are, sitting at 5-7, but we'll have to see how long Trae Young is out. If he's out for an extended period of time and the Hawks still to lose these games, this one was just a fluke versus the Celtics, then obviously I'll take back my words. But obviously, if the Hawks start looking good without Trae Young, then who knows? Trae Young trade could be on the horizon, and the Hawks could be looking to move off of him. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. Showing your love and support over on the channel. It's been really appreciative. I know that we don't get that many views, but to everyone that does view, everyone that does click in, I do appreciate your guys' support as we're trying to bring this channel up. I'm trying to get more popular on YouTube here by myself doing this so I can build my own little fan base, have my own little fans, not just on my company pages that I write for or work for. I want to have my own personal platform so I can have people to interact with, people to talk with, and just fans in general. So if you do enjoy the content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We will having more videos come out on Swish City here for you guys in the foreseeable future. Like I mentioned, if you want to follow me on Twitter as well, check out the link in the description to follow me over there. And if you are on Blue Sky, I'm also on Blue Sky as well, where it is the same username, just my full name, Bruce Veliz. If you want to follow me there, go ahead and do that. Like I said, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys so much for showing your support. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out, y'all.